when the little birds are nesting, and I listen to them croon. There's two lonesome people in the whole wide world.
So we'll probably have to explain this more again as more people arrive. But so we've seeded the initial, and we'll go through all this later. But for people that are in here now, we seeded the bracket according to the results of the poll that we posted in social stuff. And the goal is to take the top like 32 of those to seed the bracket. But there was a little bit of a tie around like the 32nd, 33rd place. So we had like 4 scenarios tied, and we need to eliminate one of them so that we can have exactly 32 for the bracket. So we have this little opening poll here. Pick your least favorite scenario, and whichever one wins this poll will be booted out, and the other 3 will get to go into the bracket.
Yeah.
You get to kick a scenario off the island. The island of the top 32.
It looks like if you joined on mobile before we had the vote now up, you might have to like refresh on mobile. Desktop it should have popped up though. But it is there now.
It's kind of funny because I think if you have like a high resolution screen, I think the little voting window is like very tiny, so that's kind of fun. But
I know, it is for me. It's like this tiny little vote now thing on this right side of the screen.
Yeah,
it's. I opened it up on my phone and it's very big. It's like above the chat, like easy to find. But on desktop, it's like small.
Maybe it's one of the 1,000 Shapes of Horror.
Maybe it's one of the
the only non-Euclidean vote now.
The 2,160 Shapes of Horror, maybe.
All right. Well, why don't we kick it off, Dane?
Sounds good. So hello, everybody, and welcome to Miskatonic University Radio, a podcast exploring Fantasy Flight Games, Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm Dane.
I'm Dan.
I'm Ben.
And today we want to welcome you one and all to episode 52. We are live at FarkhamCon 2020, about to begin a tournament where you, viewers, will be deciding which scenario will be nominated as the greatest scenario in Arkham Horror, the card game. Before we begin the bloody battle to the top, we wanted to thank all you guys who are here supporting FarkhamCon, hanging out with us here, and watching from YouTube in the future. This is technically a special episode. And I know that both Ben and Dan didn't really want me to mention this because it might be a little superfluous, but it has actually been 2 years since we've been creating podcasts. And for whatever reason, syzygies, the stars align just right because it is also a period in Arkham Horror the card game's history where there are exactly 52 scenarios. Don't worry about the return to scenarios or the prime demand scenarios. There are 52 scenarios that were printed. So here we are on episode 52, sorting out which of the 52 scenarios released will go home as the champion scenario.
It's also appropriate because the first episode of the podcast that we did back when it was just Dane and I, episode 2, our first episode, was also a rundown of our favorite scenarios at the time, which was that was like mid Forgotten Age, so a lot of stuff hadn't been released yet. But
Forgotten Age. Yeah.
We thought it would be fun to revisit this, and this time, instead of giving you our wonderful, perfect opinions, bow to the wisdom of the crowds. So that's what we're gonna do.
Which wise man in history said time is a flat circle? I feel like that's relevant here.
Pretty sure that was Abraham Lincoln.
Want to do a brief rundown of how to use the vote for people that are on Twitch?
Yeah, so if you're viewing this on Twitch, whether it's on like a phone or a PC or anything, you should see a little overlay button that says "Vote Now," like a little blue icon. If you don't see that, try refreshing the stream, and you might see it then. If you click on that, it should pop up a little window, and you'll be able to click on one of the options to vote. So we have a poll up there now that's kind of helping us break the tie for which scenarios make it into the bracket. We haven't started like the official results yet, but this is just going to help us handle the last tiebreaker. So can people in chat, like, can you see that little vote now button?
Yeah, on desktop you have to like mouse over the actual video if you're not full screened. and it'll pop up on the side.
Yeah. Rice brings
But
up a good point. After selecting the Vote Now button, you actually have to click OK to enter the poll. Then you'll see the two little options appear, or how many ever there are.
All right. So while folks figure that out, we are going to list off those that did not make the cut. I was hoping we could play some like tragic organ music here, but I don't think we got that. I don't think we got that set up.
I said that we should like hire a violinist to come stand in the background of one of our cameras and play sad music, but the gosh darn COVID virus can't do that. So that's the only reason why we didn't do that.
You guys have a piano in your house. I was about to know that this plays piano. We could have had her like play sad piano music in the background. Darn.
Oh, she even knows how to play Nocturne by, is it Mozart? Chopin. There we go. One of the saddest. Well.
All right, so we're just going to list off the bottom 20. These did not make it into our top 32 bracket, either because they had very few votes or no votes. Our seeding for the poll, we asked people to give us their top 10 favorites. So, all right, so let's list the bottom to the top. So, Devour Below. Nobody likes it, I guess.
No votes, right? 0.
Indeed, it is below.
It had no votes, unfortunately. But yeah, it's kind of a whiff at the end of the core set, where the first two are pretty strong, but it's all right. And then Turn Back Time. I don't know if people just don't like it or people haven't been able to get to it because it's
even know it exists.
It's not a scenario that's easy to access, but it's fine. And then Disappearance of the Twilight Estate. It's the prologue to TCU. It's fine. I don't know. So yeah, Heart of the Elders. This is definitely one of my least favorites, I think.
Really shocked that people don't enjoy Heart of the Elders. What's not to like?
I mean, I guess,
Exactly.
technically it's even 2 scenarios with the same name.
It is.
Shut up right now.
Big Daddy Rod, welcome to the stream. Glad you can join.
Yeah, but yeah, it's rough. I think Return to Forgotten Age is coming out soon, so hopefully maybe they'll make it a little bit better.
Maybe they'll make it 3 scenarios instead of 2.
Oh, no.
That's what I'm hoping for.
All right, Point of No Return. I don't know why this is on the bottom. Maybe people haven't played it as much yet.
Point of not many votes.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's kind of long because it's got like 3 distinct like separate parts where you're like hanging out with Gugs and then exploring the spooky underground and then like into Sea of Pitch and the spiders everywhere. But
I feel like all the Dreamland scenarios should be like in the top 2/3 just on the basis of the art alone, kind of. But this is like the bottom of them.
Yeah,
super cool. You got those sludge spiders and things.
Yeah,
and then Dane, cover your ears because next in the bottom 20 is The Gathering.
Nobody. It's a fine tutorial. That's about all there is to say about it.
Yeah, it's no reasonable person's favorite scenario. I like that. But then Shattered Aeons, topped off the Forgotten Age. It's fine.
I think what's surprising to me.
I
liked Shattered Aeons. I thought it was cool.
Shattered Aeon gives me like a little bit of twitch every time because it was a D&D campaign I ran for a while where we had a character named Aeon who was very chaotic and crazy and was kind of a blight upon the rest of the party. I enjoyed him, but I think my friends, whenever we played this, were like, "Oh, Aeon," but it's fine. All right, then Union and Disillusion.
I think I don't hate it, but I think it's like the only uninteresting TCU scenario. Like all the others are like cool and have a hook, and this one is just like, you gotta light some braziers, basically.
Yeah, it has
anything that involves the stalker. What is the name? The hunter. The
Watcher.
Yeah, the Watcher. Anything that involves that thing just escalates to a point where I just don't I don't want to deal with the scenario anymore.
I think the ending of it at the Geist Trap is pretty cool. But
that is true. Yeah.
But it's not that much fun to play.
The story is cool and like how it splits based on how you did with other scenarios, but the scenario itself is like fine.
The rare tests that Calvin succeeds on if he has 1 health and 1 sanity.
Yeah, that's right. There are a lot of birds on that island. So
oh yeah.
put it in chat.
By the way, so just a couple of days ago, I passed the all 4 stats brazier test with 3 aces in that dumb Mandy deck.
Oh my god!
We only needed to do it because the first time the guy trying to do it drew tentacles, and I was like, it's fine. I'll just do it. I can do everything. Like,
you could enter Arkham Retirement right now.
Yeah, basically.
All right. Where Doom awaits did not make the cut.
You want to know where Doom awaits? 44th place. It's going to be waiting there forever.
All right, and then at Death's Doorstep. What is that? That's the first TCU scenario, right? Or is it the second one?
Second one.
Can't
It's
remember.
the second one, yeah.
So,
Other than
so,
the prologue, yeah.
so meaning, is that the one where you go back to the mansion, like that you
Yeah.
were at in the
Yep.
prologue?
And like the first part is kind of dependent on how you did in the prologue, but
I sort of like
And you have
that
to, like,
one, but
usher the guys
it's
out.
not particularly memorable. It's just kind of a fine scenario, I guess.
I mean, the first part's like a race to like try to get all the clues so you can get like the good endings.
Oh
for
yeah,
the friends.
and it's
But-
weirdly really hard in 4-player because if you just draw a couple of monsters, you like immediately advance on like turn 2. and
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because the monsters are ancient evils. And
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like pretty tough to like get all the clues.
Yeah.
But
The
I
floor
thought
is
that
ancient
was cool.
evils.
But the second part I think maybe drags a little bit.
Yeah.
and it's a little confusing maybe to figure out if you have to save the people or not. But
Yeah.
Fair enough.
all right. So next is Beyond the Gates of Sleep. It's the first TCU scenario. I think Dan likes this a lot, right?
I voted for this one. I'm kind of bummed out it's this far down. I just think it's a really cool,
Right.
fun intro to Dreamlands, and I like the no encounter deck thing as like a weird, like holy shit kind of a thing that's very different. But
think it's
Yeah, exactly.
It's very lackadaisical, but I can see why
Yeah.
people like it because maybe they want more excitement for.
yeah, I mean it's I like it, but it's fine. It's fine. That doesn't make it.
Yeah. Labyrinths of Lunacy. This is actually interestingly high.
Who really actually wants to? If I offered you like, hey, do you want to play Labyrinth right now? Who would say like, oh yeah, let's do it?
Hey,
Like-
hey. I just
It's
played it and had a lot of fun.
It's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
a cool concept, but I feel like the gimmick wears off pretty quick. I played it a
Yeah.
couple times with different groups. It's definitely, I think it's fun the first time you do it, but I don't know. And I've never played it actually on like a solo mode campaign.
My real complaint with it is that you can't like inject it in the middle of your scenario like you can with Carnival or like Rougarou. It's just like it tells you cannot do that. And I'm a huge campaign player. I just love building decks and upgrading them and things. So
Yeah, that is a bit
Yeah.
of a bummer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So next, Witching Hour also did not make the cut. That's the first TCU scenario. That one's
Yeah.
very brutal
Yes.
multiplayer because we always like to specialize. and it's,
then-
uh,
and
sad
then it
times.
didn't work out.
That makes it fun though, and also
Yeah.
your seeker can probably just like get 8 clues in one turn, and then you immediately advance when that happens. But
Baby. But it's, I don't know, it's fine. The Night Usurper, that is the second Egypt scenario.
Yeah.
Right? I
lo-
can't remember. which
Yep,
one's
with
which.
the dark spooky tall guy from another dimension.
I like both of the Egypt scenarios. I really have a hard time remembering
too.
which is which. They're both like fun but very long. Is my main recollection of them.
Yeah, the first one's
Yeah.
really long.
Yeah,
I mean, they're cool. And then Untamed Wilds. This is very high up.
this should be number 52. This is the worst scenario in the game. Anyone who voted for this, what's wrong with you? What was your childhood like? That's what I want to know.
TFA supporters, let
You
us
can
let us
support-
know
You can support TFA
how
without
you
thinking
feel the Untamed Wilds does
okay.
versus Devour Below.
I mean, some people like the challenge of it. I don't know. It's okay.
They like
It's
the
really-
challenge
really
of getting
brutal.
arrows in the trees like 6 times.
I
What
do.
a fun
I
challenge.
especially like it when it gains Surge.
Oh yeah, it's really really good.
It sets the stage for like how brutal the Forgotten Age will be. I think when you're doing it on replays where you know the scenario more, it might be more interesting. But blind, it's rough. It's very rough.
The point of it is to saddle you with as much trauma as possible so that you feel like you're really in the miserable jungle. It's not to be a fun scenario, and it isn't a fun scenario. But whatever. I'm just being a jerk, but come on.
Yeah. All right. So Undimensioned and Unseen is net. Yeah, I agree with chat. I think it is a little bit better than Art of the Elders.
Yeah,
What Untamed Wilds that is.
Agree with that, Legrac.
maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. What was I doing? So Undimensioned Unseen. So this is like the pandemic scenario, right? Or is it the one before
No,
that?
this is
No.
Waylay. This is the Dunwich one where
Yeah,
you
this
have
is the
big,
Dunwich one with the big spooky
invisible monsters.
Oh, yeah, I'm completely forgetting. Completely
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah.
And you have, and if you're playing Rogue or Survivor, you have to like Waylay or die.
Yeah, it's
Or anybody with low will, I should say.
I think this one's kind of unfairly disliked. I think it's kind of cool, but I think that is very dependent on whether you have people in your group that can actually pass big will tests pretty reliably. And I understand it can just be an absolute nightmare if you don't. So I get it.
I mean, I also think it bogs if you did well in the scenario beforehand. So there's like 4 or 5 abominations. It's like kind of slow, I think.
Yeah, you can also just like clear out a few of
Yeah,
them and then
you get-
leave. Like you don't have to do all of them.
But then
Sometimes you
wait-
just get rid of one, and then you're just sitting there
Yeah.
because there's not enough ways for them to spawn.
Yeah, I don't know.
That is-
And then
that
Curse of the Rugru. So we have next. I mean, I like Curse of the Rugru, but it's probably not. It's not like a top 10 for me.
The
So-
theme is cool. It feels like kind of a slog when you're playing it, but there's some neat stuff about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first standalone. It was like the premier Arkham Knight standalone, right?
It came out like before the game, effectively, right? Kind of.
Yeah,
like
basically.
really close to when it came out. But yeah. I do like the theme. I like the standalones when they like take us to a different part of the world that maybe they're not going to do a full campaign about. So it's
I
explore
like the
like
Bayou. It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will happily pretend that I like this more than I do if it means that they'll make standalones more often.
Yeah. Don't worry, Barkham's coming, Dan. All right, and then Miskatonic Museum. This is Dunwich, the one where there's like one enemy the whole time.
So Shoggoth Joe in the chat said that they quite like Miskatonic Museum. It's very atmospheric. I think that's true. Like it is a really cool. It was a very early scenario to be released, and it feels very like horror movie X-Files episode ish. Like that part of it is really cool. It's sort of boring to play if you're a Guardian, I guess.
Reminiscent of Alien, right? Like you're this one thing in the ship, and you're all kind of wandering around these spooky corridors, trying to figure out what's going on in this museum. And
That's also
there
true.
are these other little NPCs that are involved that are dying sometimes, or not dying.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah.
All right,
I'll take it for the Android Netrunner reference.
and I see the poll for the least rate, which scenario is going to miss the cut here is very close right now. So definitely vote if you're still thinking about it. The last one that is not getting in is the Wages of Sin.
Totally crazy.
I like Wages of Sin. I think it's a fun challenge.
Wages of Sin is great. This is like one of the best like push your luck, like how many of the things can you get scenarios. Like I think it might just be like it seems way too hard because the expectation is that you're probably only gonna get like one of them if you go into it not really knowing how it works. And then people feel like, oh, we only got one out of 4. It was way too hard. Is it like that? Is that the reason maybe people don't like it?
I think you might feel like you failed if you got like 1 or 2, but really like you're set back next. Like for the next scenario, it's just extremely hard to get all 4 of the heretics.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the reason why I like it. It's kind of the same reason why I like some of the TFA scenarios more than someone might normally, because of the fact that it's hard and it challenges you in a different way.
Yeah, I definitely think it's neat. I like the challenge. Maybe it's a little bit too luck based because sometimes you really need like the ghost to be on a good spot to be able to get rid of it right away. Like if you get a setup where it's like, oh, I have to run each one across the board, it can be really rough. But
the spectral version thing is also really cool. Like it's annoying if you're playing like online. It's hard to remember like that you can't draw from the regular deck and you have to draw from the special deck. But I think it's really neat how at least in the first section of it, you have this additional choice of like, oh, do we flip this location this turn? And it's like I need to flip it to get clues, but then if I don't move off, I have to draw a worse encounter card. Like you get interesting choices to make because of that.
Yeah, I wish there was a little bit more time where you had that choice because like it's just the first agenda, right? And then
that's true. It does flip fairly early, but yeah.
But it's neat. All right, so it looks like we have closed the poll. So we have people voting for the least favorite of the 4 that were tied for like 30th place. It looks like the secret name did not make the cut. It rounds out our bottom 20.
People aren't interested in seeing that horrifying art of Brown Jankin again. And you know what? I'm 100% there. Like, yeah.
I like the secret name. The beginning is like you're in like a spooky haunted house, although that's not played up too much. But I like it mostly because of the horrifying art. When we first drew it, it has a very vivid memory of.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I like the weird time stuff where you like find a room in the house that's like back in your childhood or something. That stuff is cool.
Oh, yeah,
like Salem, like circa 1749 or something.
Yeah,
and it has like one of the locations is like a location you end up in like later in the campaign or something too, which is cool. But
pseudonym in chat says it's long, it's repetitive, it's almost impossible true solo. That's one thing that because we don't play solo that much that is like we might not know about, but yeah, I can see how secret name might be really difficult.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
You need to get a lot of clues, and you need to like also discover the locations, and a lot of them have like hindrances on them. So I could see that.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we got Harrison working on putting up the bracket for the top 20 or top 32. So we seeded this sports style. I don't actually know how sports works, but I'm pretty sure it puts like the highest seed versus the lowest seed and ticks it down from there.
Yeah, so we did all of that to cut it down to the top 32 scenarios according to people's votes in the original poll, and those have now been seeded, as Ben said. So from now on, it's just a straight up single elimination head-to-head tournament starting with 32 scenarios. And what we're going to do is for each matchup, we're going to show a poll, just like we did for this initial poll, with those two options. And we're going to give people, how much did we decide? Like 90 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever?
I think 90 seconds for at least the first round, and then maybe we'll give a little more time.
That sounds good. So you'll have 90 seconds to vote. While you guys are voting, we'll kind of like weigh in and give our thoughts, but you guys make the actual decision. And then once we know which scenario wins, then we'll mark it on the bracket and we'll move on to the next one. And we didn't really talk about what we do if there were ties. We're hoping that there just won't be ties. If there are, we'll probably just like try to get some random person to weigh in, or we'll like flip a coin, or we'll do something stupid. So, yeah,
we definitely should have planned that out. I'm sure it'll be fine. You know, what are the odds that?
Yeah. It probably won't happen. So.
Yeah, we can make Harrison break the tie or something.
Harrison can break the tie. Yeah, that works.
And if you want to follow along and see the full bracket, because you probably can't see the whole thing at once on the stream, the link to the bracket is in the stream description, so you can check that out.
All right. Yeah, let's do 90 seconds for the first round. So we're not
Andromeda Dust asks, any betting on a winning bracket? No, that is a great idea that we should have thought of. Just pretend that you bet on it, and then when the results came in, pretend that was what you picked and that you won. And that way everyone gets to be happy.
Yeah, I know some of the other streamers are doing like contests during their streams, but this is fine. You can predict. We'll like, our number one seed is Murder at the Excelsior Hotel versus Echoes of the Past, which is our 32nd seed. So do we have the poll up, Harrison? Are we ready to go? All right. So Murder at the Excelsior Hotel. This is a standalone scenario that Nick from the Mythos Busters worked on with Matt.
He did.
I want to just say really quick, it's a good scenario. Number one, really, you think Nick's gonna think you're cool if you pick a scenario? Everybody, is that what this is about?
I think it's a really dynamic scenario. Honestly, I could definitely see just it hands down being like the most modular, versatile scenario for like the rest of the history of the game. You know what I mean? Just because it was literally made to do that. So I think that in that regard, you're basically never playing the same scenario twice.
I like it a lot. I think it's one of the best standalones. I do think it's really, really good. I just thought it was funny that it got number one. But and also Echoes of the Past, I think is pretty bad. So this is for me at least. This is an easy pick.
Yeah, I mean Echoes of the Past. I think like you either like snowballs really quickly and you lose, or it's like you have it under control the whole time and it's like
exactly. Is it? What about like in solo though? I mean, you start off with fewer of those dudes out, but like they're so far away, they're aloof. Is it like really, really hard in solo or 2-player?
I've heard that it's really, really difficult in solo because of the fact that you have to like keep running up and down stairs. It's like stair simulator.
Only like a few seconds left.
Yeah.
And is that no one voted for? I almost voted for it just to be perverse, but I was afraid that the Mythos Busters would be mad at me, so I didn't do that.
Yeah. It looks like everybody voted for Murder. I mean,
hey, there we go. A decisive victory.
So were there only 12 votes though? Because we have like 35 viewers. Is anybody having trouble getting the button?
Another vote came in at the last second. One person voted for Echoes of the Past.
Hey, congratulations! Points on the board.
Yeah. If anyone's having issues, ask in the chat, and Harrison will try to help you out.
It should. I mean, it should just pop up on the Twitch thing. I'm pretty sure, right? Like
when you hover over the actual stream, like where we are and where the big bracket is, you'll see a little vote now button like kind of appear to the side. You need to click that, and then you'll see the options pull up.
That's if you're viewing on a computer. If you're viewing on
That's
a
true.
phone, then there's another weird different panel thing that pops
on
up.
the phone, at least on my phone, it like has the if you have the chat open, it's like in the bar in the chat.
Yeah, it's like a little
Perfect.
see the little now button right there.
And if you don't see it there, rejoin the stream. I noticed it didn't pop up when I joined before you had it up. So.
Oh yeah, and Pseudonym mentions in chat that they didn't vote because they haven't played Excelsior. That's if you haven't played either one and you don't want to vote, that's totally fair. I mean, I think that the American tradition is to just immediately form a strong opinion anyway and then defend it to the death and vote anyway. But if you don't want to, not everyone's from the United States, so it's totally fine if you don't want to do that.
You've got some wonderful scenarios ahead of you in just the Murder at the Excelsior Hotel Pseudonym.
Yeah, and Big Daddy Rod says can't vote because I'm new to the game and have only played through to only through Dunwich. Again, you've got some really good stuff ahead of you. So have a good time. Yeah,
it's good stuff.
Just consider this a way to get your expectations set and be excited for the scenarios that are going to be coming.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so next matchup is the Blob that ate everything versus Dim Carcosa.
Oh man!
So the Blob that ate everything was a standalone scenario from last Arkham Nights, as well as Gen Con, right? And this was
That's
like a
right,
massive multiplayer scenario where many groups team up to fight one giant enemy, the Blob, while it's trying to eat everything, which is great. I like this scenario a lot. I think I voted this. We submitted our votes too. I think I voted this for top 10.
I like Blob a lot, but I feel like I'm always gonna pick something that's like less gimmicky over something that's a little more gimmicky, even if it's like a really good gimmick. So I picked Dim Carcosa. I think that's one of the best endings of a campaign that we've had.
Yeah, I would agree. It's one of the strongest ones. It's even better in Return 2, although we're not factoring in the Return 2s. Those, as I said, those are alternate universe scenarios.
Blob just came out formally like a couple weeks ago or something, right? Like it seems good.
It's true.
We ended up getting copies of it at like Gen Con and Arkham Nights, but like I think it was actually just hit stores to the extent that those still exist.
Yeah. Although I think there's at least one, if not multiple, Blob events being run for Farkham Con. So if you haven't had a chance to play, see if I would look into those events too. Because playing
Blob is
big large
absolutely
group
worth
is
it.
definitely very fun.
It's absolutely worth doing.
I haven't played
It's
it.
certainly my pick here.
Yeah, you got 10 seconds left. Although by the time it says on the stream,
in as much Arkham Horror the card game is like a game like no other that you could play in respect to other board games and card games. Blob is that for Arkham. Like you just won't get anything like it in the scope of Arkham Horror the card game. It's so much fun to do with a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, I actually haven't played it with just one group. So I don't know how it scales because I've just done it at like the groups that you guys have organized. But I don't know. I feel like
it's actually going to be here at Farkham Con. There are going to be some blobs at Farkham Con. So
yeah,
viewers, go check it out.
I don't know.
If you haven't played it yet, go check it out.
Yeah, I don't know if they're using. I don't know if you need to have your own copy or if they're using digital tools to help facilitate it, but I know there's definitely some happening, so I would definitely look into doing it. All right, so why don't we? So winner for that is the Blob that ate everything. Next bracket is Depths of Yoth versus Before the Black Throne. So Depths of Yoth looks like the seeded pretty high. This is definitely one of the scenarios I like the most out of the Forgotten Age. So you're trying to go deeper and deeper into the spooky snake people tunnels.
Oh yeah, Depths of Yoth made my top 10. I loved being pursued by spooky snakes in like basically snake hell.
Yeah,
all of Forgotten Age is snake hell.
I don't think it's snake hell. I think isn't it the city they live in, or is that?
Okay. I guess that's a biased human.
Come on.
Like, I don't know if they just like hanging out.
What you're saying that just because you can't fit through a city that's mostly made out of like tubes and has like mice to eat all over the place, that like that's automatically hell just because it's designed by and for snakes. Okay. Wait, really, really cool, Dane.
Yeah. So yeah,
Oh,
Depths of
no.
Yacht it's pretty cool. It's also
I'm a
one of the most
monster.
interesting standalone like alternate because it has like you can like keep on going if you do it in standalone mode, which is pretty cool. I know there's been some contests for that. I don't know if there's any of those going on at Farkham, but they've done them at Arcanites before. How low can
Oh,
you
yeah.
go? Meanwhile, before the Black Throne, that's the finale to the Circle Undone.
That's when you're in space and there's the spaghetti monsters.
I like the spaghetti monsters. I like the theme of being in space. I dislike the empty space mechanic because it's something I had to we argued about in the rules, various rules forms for a while. They clarified it sort of, but
I picked Before the Black Throne because I'm voting against every Forgotten Age scenario on principle.
Wow.
Depths of Yacht is pretty good, but it's like it's fine. I
like it over.
Honestly, I like these about the same amount. I think they're both good.
I mean, Before the Black Throne has a lot of randomness to it that can really bog you down, and I think it's one that's in solo because of the randomness. Like the later phases, there's like you have to try to find the right location, and there's a lot of options. And if you pick the wrong one, you might not have enough time.
You can kind of say that about like most of these scenarios, though. Like, in solo, it's like a really spiky.
I mean, it's the scenarios that have a lot of movement that I think most are very spiky for solo, or like require like a static number of actions. I don't know. I don't play as much solo. That's my understanding.
Before the Black Throne is also the most rated M for mature Avenged Sevenfold. Like Black Metal series, right? Because
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
There's some intense.
Oh yeah.
I feel even better about voting for it now. Very cool.
All right. So Depths of Yacht did win pretty decisively.
Hooray!
Have we had an upset yet? Has the highest seeded one won every match so far?
Not yet. We'll see though. Up next is In the Clutches of Chaos versus Carnival of Horrors.
Oh, very, very easy pick. Very easy pick. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. So In the Clutches of Chaos, this is the pandemic scenario in the Circle Undone, where there's like breaches opening up, and if you don't control them, they'll multiply and cascade across the board, and then you'll lose. And this one has like two slightly different versions based on like what decisions you made throughout the campaign, which I always kind of like those scenarios where it's like, oh, in the second playthrough, if we make these decisions, we'll have different enemies to deal with. Or
it just changes the two locations on the opposite ends, though, right?
Yeah, for that. I mean, it also changes enemies and stuff. But
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's like a fun strategic one. But it's up against Carnival of Horrors, which definitely competes for top standalone scenario or top scenario in general.
I mean, when we first did our favorite campaigns, Dan and I voted that one. Like, it was our second place, right? Third place?
It was Dane's first place. It was your second, I think, because you voted The Gathering as your first, Dane.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me of my own priorities.
This one actually is really hard because I actually love Clutches of Chaos. I think it's like mechanically one of the best scenarios they've made. And against anything else, I'd probably pick it. But Carnival is just like too awesome. I have to vote for Carnival.
Yeah, I like Carnival a lot. The theme is fun. It has like a weird, cool map mechanic.
But I'm very disappointed to see Clutches of Chaos exit this early, which it looks like it will, because it is really, really, really fun.
Yeah,
Chaos Manifest is also one of the cooler cards.
Chaos Manifest.
Yeah. I mean, I always like cards that like I can do in a goofy, deep voice and make it sound cool. So, Chaos Manifest is definitely one of them. So, all right, well, yeah, Carnival won this round. Not too surprising there. Next round is The Last King versus Dark Side of the Moon. Both I like both of these. I like Dark Side of the Moon mostly because the names are all fun to say, especially if I add extra O's to them. But
if somebody can confirm that The Last King is an album by some like super cool like metal band somewhere, this will actually be a very contentious battle.
I'm still on my theory that all of the Dreamland scenarios were secretly album names to something that Matt Newman listens to, even though I could not prove it. But
it is. I mean, I think Circle Undone until Dreamland's Circle Undone. Well, yeah, Dreamland's is like the most prog rock of the campaigns so far. Yeah. I would say, right? But this one's kind of tough. Last King, I think, is just kind of it's kind of annoying. Like it just has all this weird annoying stuff in it. It's kind of cool, but I'm gonna go Dark Side of the Moon.
Last King is the scenario in Carcosa where you're trying to talk to all the people and then maybe fight the people before time runs out. I always like those.
It's got corrosion in it.
Yeah, Dark Side Moon has the. Yeah, I think I like the Last King better. I don't know.
It's a dinner party, man. It's the only dinner party in all of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Isn't Disappearance at the Twilight Estate a dinner party? Like, you're not attending because you're one of the employees.
Well, in the story, it's a dinner party until you turn to ghosts or whatever. But
right.
So Last King is cool. I don't like the Return to one as much because I think they like took like a very good scenario and made it like too long.
That might be one of the few that is worse than the Return to.
Yeah, and I think Dane likes it.
I do like it more, mostly because the art is absolutely horrifying. It's like on Before the Black Throne level of like just grotesque, grisly, dark art.
That one ended up being closer. At least it seems like as we're moving up as we progress, we're getting ones that are like seated closer together, and we're maybe getting more
Coda B Games in the chat. I love the feeling of am I crazy or are these really monsters? Feeling that the Last King gives you. Absolutely. That's why I liked it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Carcosa does a lot of that, and it does it really well. So that's definitely a good pro there. Yeah. So as we said, Last King won that round, although this was much closer. It was 11-8. So,
it was.
So next one up is Where the Gods Dwell versus The House Always Wins. So Where the Gods Dwell, if we don't want to talk about spoilers with it, it's basically impossible to talk about because all the encounter cards are hidden cards. But I know in solo it's like very, very difficult and it to like complete it.
Oh no! Is Where the Gods Dwell going to lose to House Always Wins?
It might.
How is this possible? Where the Gods Dwell is like the best final scenario that they've made. It's so cool.
It's
good.
Yeah, it's really cool in multiplayer with how you have to negotiate, figuring out who has what cards to deal with and how to deal with them. But I know in solo it's like basically impossible, and it really
also if you're playing Patrice.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good point. Like it is really badly balanced in solo, but it's so cool though. Like the mechanics of beating that boss are just so awesome.
Yeah, I think Harrison, didn't you have a Patrice where you had like your entire hand with hidden cards or something?
I mean, House Always Wins is like, I like the theme of it, but it never feels super fun to play. The beginning part, you can't actually investigate or do anything. You just have to do the gambling stuff. And then the later part is like super rushed. Like, I don't know. I like the casino idea. Like, I hope they do another casino scenario. I've never really had a great time playing the House Always Wins.
Harrison, seems like your mic's not coming through on the stream, even though we can hear you on Discord. So I don't know if you want to see if you can fix that, but
it's probably in OBS. You have to change it to add a source for the for your microphone.
And Andromeda does bring up a good point here. If the house doesn't always win, where will we be? Just in the context of the entirety of Arkham Horror.
I really hope the house eventually loses at some point in this bracket, but we'll see.
House Always did win by just one vote there, so it was close.
Yeah.
All right, so
one vote.
Next up is Black Stars Rise versus Blood on the Altar. Black Stars Rise is the penultimate scenario in Carcosa.
Battle of the Bees.
Oh, that's right.
It has two agendas, and you have to try to decide which one to advance with no information basically until later in the scenario. I think it's very cool.
Very cool art, very cool theme. Really, I really like this one a lot.
Yeah, and then Blood on the Altar. I don't know. I feel like that one's always like very easy, but like, and the challenge is like, can we complete the first act before? Can we get lucky and find the key in the room before anyone gets sacrificed?
Yeah, just to make sure there's like zero chance that somebody's Dr. Milan gets sacrificed instead of like a 11% chance, you know?
The main thrill is like if somebody gets kidnapped and like auto fails and their ally gets thrown into the sacrifice pit. That's the scariest part. I haven't played with anyone that had like Duke get sacrificed, but I know that's a great tragedy that can occur.
Oh yeah,
But-
the tragedy of tragedies.
I like both of these, but yeah, I just think Black Stars Rise is like such a cool kind of like a atmospheric scenario, and the art on it is so great. Like that cool French monastery or whatever that you're in on the island.
Yeah,
Really neat.
Well, there's one thing we have to like go talk to like a monk or something. The art has like it's like a monastery. I mean, this is what you're talking about, but there's like some spooky shadow figure there, and it's like
yeah, it's like very not a monk.
Is it actually like a type of Cthulhu monster?
Right. Yeah.
So polls almost closed on this one, but it looks like pretty decisive win for Black Stars Rise for this round.
So yeah, so far it's all been chalk except for Blob was actually seeded a little bit. Blob was seeded one lower than Dim Carcosa. So Blob is like the one upset so far. And those were like 16 and 17, so it was like basically the same.
Shocketh Joe does bring up a good point, and we brought it up earlier when we talked about Undimensioned and Unseen. If you do too well in Blood on the Altar, and that there's not a lot of sacrifices, you get all of the monsters, and sometimes that can be super overwhelming.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Well, and also
the reward for doing well is you have to play more of Undimensioned Unseen.
and LeGroc in chat says BSR takes place at Mont Saint Michel, which is on my bucket list. That is like it is like a real place, right?
It's true. Yeah.
It is
Pallid Mask also. Catacombs in Paris.
Yeah.
I know I've seen some people on
there.
Facebook that play the game, or before the entire world was locked down, would send pictures of like, "Hey, I'm at this place," and because they were in France or whatever. So that would be cool.
Before times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
before times. I don't know how long ago that was, but all right. So anyway, next up is 1,000 Shapes of Horror versus the Essex County Express. 1,000 Shapes of Horror. This is the unnameable. It's the unnameable. It's when you're in a house and you're fighting something that you can't understand, and you're like trying to go around and like discover weird stuff in the house. And then
Boring.
And then there's a staircase at the end, which we all shudder at because the Keeper's Nightmare that we played against Jeremy like ripped off that part of the map, and we were trapped in a staircase for like 4 hours while he slowly killed us.
I actually, Shocketh Joe says, "Damn, this next bracket is Sophie's choice for me. Love them both." That's very true for me too. Both of these are some of my favorites for very different reasons. But 1,000 Shapes of Horror, second spookiest house in all of Arkham, first being the Witch House. I loved this scenario. Somebody had to do it.
I only have one thing to say about this match. Chugga 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 choo choo. All aboard the Essex County Express train. We're going all the way.
Yeah, Essex County Express I like a lot. I know there's like a weird combo that could happen in like 3-4 player where you just lose with that first turn, which
That's great. It's great when that happens.
It has happened to me, but most of the time it's great. I love the theme of the trade. I love the how the acts or the agendas progress, and you like have to run into the engine as fast as you can, or maybe somebody might get lost into a portal.
I love the horror guys that try to grab you. They're cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's great. So, and it looks like our viewers
Always
agree.
give the luggage.
All aboard. Yeah.
Viewers agree. Essex County Express won that round. Yeah, I love it. I love the train. It's great. All right. Next is the Midnight Masks versus a Phantom of Truth. So Midnight Mask is definitely my favorite from the core. It's when you have to go around and interview the cultists and/or murder the cultists, depending on what's going on. And it's a way to introduce people to like how there's like scaling levels of success in some scenarios of Arkham, because it's really hard to get all 6 of them, especially in initial playthroughs. So it's like I got 3 or 4 or whatever, but I can still progress with the story into the Devour Below. And that's cool. I like that. And then
LeGroc actually brought up a good point about the Essex County Express. They kind of showed what they could do with locations and cards in general. That they kind of did the same thing. They subvert your expectations when you're playing the Midnight Masks after the Gathering, which is more of like a claustrophobic, like you're in your home and there's very specific locations. It just opens it up to a town. And now suddenly you can run around, you can go to the graveyard, you can go to the
It's also fun for having the same locations that you see in the Arkham Horror board game, or the earlier iterations of it.
That's right.
Which we played a lot of before the card game. We played second edition a lot, so it was a good throwback. And then at Phantom of Truth, this is the. I remember this mostly because there's that one card that has organs on it. And whenever we're playing, Dan plays like really loud organ music also and does the draw to see if they.
I mean, this was one of the first scenarios, maybe the first, that had two like almost completely different modes for how it plays out depending on campaign choices. Like we'd see that again, but this was like the first one that did that.
Yeah, it splits it like it's very different depending on if you've gone doubt or conviction for it. Your goals are different, and it really plays with it well. Yeah, what's the music you play?
The Toccata and Fugue in D minor, the famous like organ thing that everyone knows.
The more of that one treachery card you have out, the torturous chords, the louder the music gets.
This one was actually kind of hard for me because I like both of these about the same. I picked Midnight Masks just because it was like I think this was the first like pretty cool scenario. And Phantom of Truth, while I like it a lot, it's one where like if you're doing really well, it just turns into like a slog on the Survive the Nights version where you're just like, okay, we can easily run away from this guy. Now we just have to sit here for like 8 turns.
Yeah,
that's true.
Midnight Mask was also seeded 3rd, which is kind of interesting. I wonder when people are voting if people hadn't played all the scenarios, they might have leaned more towards like Core and Dunwich and stuff. But
maybe it's also. I mean,
definitely,
I think by now there are other scenarios that do kind of Midnight Masks but better. But it does kind of get points for being like early for being like a really cool scenario early in the game.
Oh yeah, Shagath Joe just does bring up a good point. It's nice to see the Notre Dame in Phantom.
Yeah,
sad times, man. We're there with you.
It's very unfortunate. All right, so moving on. Oh, the Doom of Etzel or Etzley. I never say this right because our one friend's last name is those same like 5 letters in a slightly different order.
Really not the same at all.
It's very close. But it's the how do we say it? Doom of Etzel?
Etzley.
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 All right, Doom of Etzley. Versus For the Greater Good. This is not really a contest for me.
Gonna smash that button there.
See, the first time I played the Doom of Etzley, I didn't know what to think about it because I was thinking more of it like Indiana Jones, but then I got more like just brutally destroyed it and like didn't even get out of the second location. But the more I played it, the more I've learned to respect it and enjoy it for its Indiana Jones-esque vibe that it goes for. So I do like it
because that one was kind of a riff on the opening of Raiders where like the boulders rolling down the ramp and stuff, which is cool.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't think that scenario is super fun to play.
Yeah, I mean it's all right. I know when you guys first played it, I think you guys both get crushed utterly. That was not my experience.
I remember playing one where Dane was playing Carolyn, and we just got completely wrecked.
that was less a testament to how like any degree of bad that Doom of Etzley might be, and more of like never play Carolyn without her. That was like before, real cards.
That was before Carolyn was good. For the Greater Good, I don't think it's like the most mechanically fun. I think it's pretty cool, but I like the like theme of it a lot, and I like the 2 different options for it depending on what you chose in the campaign.
Yeah, that is true. You have to either sneak in or you're like a member of the lodge and you can kind of walk in and
I like the key mechanic in that, though. I think there's like some combination that makes it very hard. Like if you get them in a weird order, you have to run back and forth across the map. But I like that in general. And I like that if like depending on how well you're doing in the scenario, there's like slightly different endings to the scenario that can be pretty cool.
But yeah, Captain Farnese points out playing Luke really changes both of these. Playing Luke changes everything in Arkham Horror, the card game. For those of you who have not played Luke, it's wild.
Oh man,
it's
I haven't
wildly
played Luke
different.
At an age. I want to do that.
I mean, certainly Luke, but also just Open Gate can make a big difference. That's true. Yeah, I played For the Greater Good recently with Mandy with the pendant, and you just like teleport from one side of the thing to the other, and it's like, okay, that's pretty good. So,
yeah, well, that's exactly Luke's.
Made
only better. Yeah,
very strong.
I don't think we're surprised to see that For the Greater Good did take the win here.
It has greater right in the name, right?
Yeah. So up next is Search for Kadath versus Weaver of the Cosmos. So Search for Kadath is the second scenario in the Dream Eaters.
Mhm.
Weaver is the final scenario in the Waking World team.
Got an old-fashioned dream off going on in this match.
I like Search for Kadath a lot. The only thing awkward about it is like you have to set up the map multiple times, which is kind of slow. But otherwise, I think it's pretty cool. I also kind of like Weaver. I think it's not as strong as for the Good to Good, or excuse me, for Where Gods Dwell. But despite the boss mechanic is pretty cool. It's like a cool way to like invoke like raid boss type of thing, like flashback to when we played WoW type of thing, where it's like you have to figure out a strategy.
Yeah, I think they get props for doing that and having the cool like rotating spider thing. I also haven't played it with actual physical cards, and I'm interested to see how it does with that. But for me, it's an easy pick. I just think Search for Kadath has so much cool like art and flavor and stuff in it, and it's a fun like try to get all the things before you run out of time. Like that's a really fun challenge. And Weaver's just like, sure, it's a big spider, whatever.
Archer brings up a good point. They're both really fun. I think that like chasing the legs and like having to navigate the spiders that like just add doom all the time, and like you're basically on this web at the end of reality. And that part of it is really cool and evokes a very specific feeling. But also like the Search for Kadath is just like the new Legend of Zelda game. Like you're just going to lands unknown and exploring like these relationships with like kings and walking through towns and going into these like unknown places that locals warn you about, scaling mountains. It's just like such a cool adventure.
They put like almost the entire first like 2/3 of the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath into one scenario, just by making each location be like a really cool, interesting flavor and mechanics kind of a place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, looks like viewers agree. Search for Kadath is the winner there. It's super cool. I like the theme of it a lot. As it could have been its own like campaign in itself, as Dan's always said. We could have like
honestly, it could have.
I would love it if that was the case,
But I mean, the Dreamlands is big. Like sometimes we could dip back into it. Like the Egypt scenarios, we dip back into the Dreamlands a little bit. So there's more stuff. All right. So next matchup is Waking Nightmare versus the Unspeakable Oath.
Is this like like two hospital scenarios matched up with each other?
That is very funny. That's how that worked out. Yeah, one's in a
which hospital will win?
One's in a mental asylum, and one's at a hospital, physical hospital mostly. So, yeah. So, I mean, I have a preference here. I think Unspeakable Oath. I like that more. But I know that's another one that's on solo is like very brutal. How many actions you have to do. But I do like the Waking Nightmare too. Like I like the trying to seal the. I don't remember what it is. Portals. The rifts to the spiders are coming in from or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Waking Nightmare. Between the two, they feel similar to me because they're both in hospitals. I would definitely take Unspeakable Oath.
Oh no, wait! I remember I actually hate Waking Nightmare because there's the infestation bag that I always forget to draw from. No,
that alone is enough of a reason to vote for the other one. Yeah.
Never mind. It has nothing that redeems it over one extra thing I have to remember each round.
It doesn't add enough. It doesn't add enough to mechanically to be worth the extra like complication of having to remember to do it.
I mean,
if anybody has like a pro strat to how to like remember that the infestation bag is a thing, I've tried putting it on top of the encounter deck. I've tried like putting it in different places so that we remember. Buying a spider figurine that like we can sit on the board and put it on. Like I don't know what'll help.
Yeah, I like the concept of the infestation bag. It's just for some reason I constantly forget it. I think it's like the timing. It's like at the end of the Mythos phase, so everyone's like, "Oh, we drew our encounter cards. Now we can start planning our turns or whatever," and we just forget it. I don't know. Like for Weaver the Cosmos, I remember
does bring up a good point.
What's it?
Yeah, Jack and Dan does bring up a good point. The best stairs in all of Arkham Horror, the card game. You can ride your way down those stairs directly into patients' rooms. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I do like the stairs. I think that's what I use. We borrowed that art for the splash for your Straight Lance run.
Sure did.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good plan, Archer. An actual spider, and you only get to give it to somebody else if you're able to draw properly.
That's an incredibly good idea. This is the kind of creativity that the Arkham community desperately needs. That's fantastic.
All right, so moving on. So next up is the Pallid Mask versus extracurricular activity. So Pallid Mask, this is definitely one of my favorites. It's the catacomb scenario.
Windmill slam, come on.
Yeah. Pallid Mask is the catacomb scenario in Carcosa, where you're in like a maze, and the map is like dynamic based on like which locations you draw. It like makes you can make like a sphere, or you can make like a nice little square, or it can split off into different directions.
It's the coolest shit ever.
It's really cool how it works.
It's so cool.
It has several like some of the cards that are in it are very on theme. It's pretty great, and there's still has like that doubt versus conviction. Like you have to make a decision near the end to decide if you trust the person you've been following around or not, and it's pretty cool. And it has like a different ending depending which choice you make.
You've got a pal in the Pallid Mask because it's the best. It's really good. It also has
very, very, very good.
a couple really cool encounter cards. We really like the shadow behind you a lot. It also, I like the hole in the floor one. I think is kind of cool. Simple but fun.
Oh yeah. The shadow behind you, one of the best encounter cards of all time.
I love that one. It's so empty.
Extracurricular activity, on the other hand, it's fine. It's just like an early scenario where I think before they had like developed a lot of cool stuff that they would develop later. I don't know. What do people like about extracurricular activity?
My favorite part about extracurricular activity was just being excited to walk around Miskatonic University, thinking that it would be like a leisure like stroll, like checking out these like kind of spooky like buildings and everything. Then you see a couple birds, and then your deck's kind of going away, and you're like, I don't know really what's happening here. Like, what's the punchline? And then like there it is, 10 damage once your deck is done, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a very shocking experience.
I mean, if you're playing Dunwich the first time, especially if you just have Dunwich cards, you don't have ways to counter. I forgot the name of the card. The card that like if your deck runs out, you take 10 damage, and it's very scary.
I think one thing that's a little bit of a bummer about extracurricular activity is there's not anything in the encounter deck that really ties into the like college setting very much. I think like I always like when, even if it's something kind of goofy and stupid, I like when there's some encounter card that's like, oh, you're on a boat, so it's like the boat's shaking or like something like that. There's nothing that's like, oh, a bunch of, I don't know. There's nothing that's like, oh yeah, we're in college, so there's this like encounter card that reminds me of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's like it's like late in the day, and like we go to the dormitory to save the students. Maybe it is kind of interesting that there's like a couple different choices for how you complete the scenario. Like there's definite objectives. Although I think after a playthrough or two, I feel like we always do the same one because we're like, oh, this has the best resolution if we do this one. But
yeah.
I wish there was a little bit more decision on like, oh, there's a little bit more splitting there. But all right, so the Pallid Mask was the winner of that poll. Up next is the Eternal Slumber. The Eternal Slumber versus the City of Archives. Eternal Slumber is the first scenario in Guardians of the Abyss standalone 2-pack. That one always feels like 3 separate scenarios to me because like each act is like very dramatically different and also kind of long.
It like starts in the town and then you move out into like the Pyramid Desert or something.
Yeah, and then and then you go through don't you go through like a portal into the Dreamlands at the end too, or is that the second scenario?
I thought that was the second one, but I'm not sure.
Isn't you going? I think no. You have to like interview the people and then you go into the desert and then you have to go back and deal with the big enemy and try to wake people up. That's the third.
Oh
phase.
Yeah. Eternal Slumber for me was one of the more cinematic. Like people were saying that the Essex County Express is very cinematic. This was definitely very, very cinematic for me because of that. It's kind of like got an act structure where first you're in the town and there's like kind of weird things going on. You're trying to go to all the locations, explore Egypt, and then you basically get on your camels and go out into the wilderness. And it's like there are these creepy like sand like wisps that are chasing you that get really, really scary and like you're uncovering tombs and things. Really cool experience for me.
Yeah.
I also, so City of Archives, that's the one where you are brain abducted into the space zone in the body of a slime monster. And all of your cards get taken away, but you can commit them for extra symbols, and you have to like try to remember that you're actually from Earth. This one, like, so this one I think is kind of popular. Like, it was seeded 10th. I think it's creative and the lore is neat. I just don't think it's super fun to play. Like, it's kind of it's like a very creative and well done gimmick, but at the end of the day, it's basically a gimmick, kind of, right?
Yeah, it can suck to like you have your deck built around your character's ability, and then you're like, oh, I don't get to use my character's ability. But if you're playing like a skill focused character or something, it's really great.
I mean, yeah, for me, like, I basically agree with what, so the Conda 101 in chat said, City of Archives is garbage. I want to play with my cards. Like, I wouldn't say it's garbage. Like, it's neat and it's creative, but ultimately, like, I want to play my deck. I don't want to play like this weird, messed up, gross version of my deck where they can't do all the things my deck can normally do, you know?
Said no Lola player ever. For all of you Lola fans out there, this is the biggest buff that Lola could possibly have wanted.
That's true.
There's probably some correlation between the Lola people and the City of Archives people, because I'm neither, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed being turned into Yithian and trying to figure my way out of what was happening. I think the first time I was upset, and it's kind of a polarizing scenario in that way, because of the fact that you want to play with your cards, you want to, like, all the upgrades you just got, like, suddenly, like, don't work sometimes because of that reason. But I really enjoyed the Yithian thing.
I do. I mean, I love the little like flavor things on the locations, like that you remembered what year it is, or you find like this weird machine that looks like 100 telescopes glued together. Like, there's all kinds of cool stuff like that.
Yeah. So it looks like the winner though was the Eternal Slumber.
Another upset.
Yeah, so that was placed a lot lower. So
that's man, it was pretty close though. Big Stupid Grin actually brings up a good point. If you're playing Preston, you still get your family inheritance.
Hey.
It always finds you. Money always finds you.
And all your stats are boosted. But if you're playing Calvin, you're really sad because all that damage on you doesn't help boost your stats.
I'm kind of surprised that went the way it did. Like, there's City of Archives has a lot of like people that are really into it because it is unique and cool. I'm kind of surprised that it lost, but I'm happy Eternal Slumber made it through.
Yeah, I like it because I have a Yithian miniature that I get to use. Where it is, in my room somewhere. It's been lost to time. It's the pandemic. It's around here somewhere, but I like breaking that out.
Yeah.
All right. So next round is Lost in Time and Space versus Curtain Call. This is the final scenario of Dunwich versus the first scenario of Carcosa.
Released consecutively, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe with Return to Night of the Zealot in between or something.
Yeah, or standalone. I don't know. But I like both these scenarios.
I think
yeah, me too.
They're both really fun. Yeah, they're both really interesting.
I think Curtain Call for me really just sets the stage super well for Carcosa. Like, I really like the kind of, it introduces the unreliable narrator stuff. That's a big favorite of mine. Lost in Time and Space, I think, is pretty cool. It was the first like really out there kind of like sci-fi bizarro scenario, which is cool. But it's always just like kind of I don't know. I don't really think I'd be in a huge hurry to play it again. Maybe.
Yeah, it's like fine for an ending. I don't know. You like the big spooky guy kind of chases you around a little bit. You can't really fight him. It has the cool mechanic of like introducing like, oh, locations can be in the encounter deck. That's kind of fun. But
yeah, that was cool. That was cool.
That is
can be a little awkward, like trying to figure out a path. But it's cool. I like that.
Lots of cool art. Also cool to see Yogg like as a card that like does a crap load of damage in horror. Like, holy crap, that's really scary. You know.
Yeah, I might vote Lost in Time and Space in this because Curtain Call is like cool, but like the vanilla version, it can be like relatively easy to keep control of the big spooky guy and just like keep killing him. The most interesting part is like figuring out like, oh wait, we've gotten all the victory, or as much as we think we can get. Let's kill the guy right now. We have like 2 turns to then like finish the last act and get out.
Yeah, it's close, but also for me, Curtain Call is seated a little lower, and when in doubt, I'd rather take the underdog. And it looks like it barely made it, so that's another upset.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I'm surprised. So Curtain Call for me, like once the act flips back over after you defeat the guy, it for me just lost all like magic, because as long as you can keep doing that, you could just like infinitely go in the game, hypothetically. You know, obviously there's like encounter, like as you progress in different ways, it gets harder. But for me, that just kind of killed some of the replayability for it, because you know exactly, you know, how many turns you have and whatnot. So I was voting for Lost in Time and Space here, I think.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, Curtain Call won that round. Last matchup, I think, of the first round is the Boundary Beyond versus Threads of Fate.
My strategy of voting against all the Forgotten Age scenarios is no longer going to work here.
So, Threads of Fate, I think, is probably seed number 2. So
10 seconds in, it was like 13-1. Threads of Fate.
Cut it there. Cut it there.
Yeah, no,
it's really cool. It has like 3 different acts, and they're also different based on other decisions you made in the campaign so far. So it has a lot of replayability. The map's pretty cool.
It doesn't have snakes in it. It doesn't have poison in it. You don't have to care about supplies. It's like it's not even a Forgotten Age scenario. It's pretty good.
It's true.
The Boundary Beyond is a very brutal try to complete as much as you can thing. And the reward for completing everything is you don't do the first half of Heart of the Elders, which is actually a very good reward. But it's very hard to do. It has that one encounter card that's so brutal where it's like resets your progress a lot, or like puts a bunch of doom in play, both of which are very bad.
Yeah.
I
do another time, I think it is.
I don't dislike Boundary as much as most people seem to. Like, I think the rules of it are pretty awkward and it's not great, but I think it's like middle of the road for Forgotten Age. Like, there's other scenarios I like less, but Threads of Fate is like pretty good. So you got to go with Threads of Fate. I am surprised it's a 2 seed. Like, that's like after the hotel, number 2 seed is Threads of Fate. Like, I'm surprised that enough people picked it for that.
Yeah, I mean, we had people pick
really fun.
Yeah, we had people pick their top 10. These aren't ranked, so it's not like something's high seed just means a lot of people like it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's like everybody's favorite. That's what our bracket's going to determine.
Yeah, that's a good point. Pseudonym in chat says someone's holding a messed up hidden treachery where they lose sanity for voting for the winner. That's I think that's an attempt to explain why people would vote for Boundary. No, I mean I could see it. Like, Boundary, it's not completely terrible. It's just kind of hard to like. But
I think for me the biggest shortcoming of Boundary Beyond was because I wanted to have more time to explore like the whole like jumping between time periods and like really having that time between it, and it just wasn't that. It's just like so much pressure.
Yeah, it's really mechanically complicated. Like, it's really hard to understand what you're supposed to do and how it works.
I think like if like when you had the choice between like returning a location or placing a doom, if returning a location didn't dump all of the clues, so when it respawned, it spawned with more clues, it would be a lot more reasonable. Like, that's the worst feeling.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's very action intensive because you have to do a lot of exploring and a lot of moving around. I like the map like changes as you find the ancient locations, but
that's cool, but it's extremely hard to keep track of, and I always forget it, and then like, oh crap, we have to roll back like 3 turns.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Return to Forgotten Age, maybe they'll tweak it and make it a winner for us. We'll see. All right. So I'm not going to go through and read all the winners off or anything. Let's just move on to.
Let's briefly. I just want to point out that the only upsets we had were Blob upset Dim Carcosa, and what was the other one? Eternal Slumber upset City of Archives, and Curtain Call upset Lost in Heaven Space. Other than that, all the higher seeds won, which kind of makes sense. But we'll move on, and so should we keep this one at 90 seconds too, and then after this we'll make the time limit longer?
That sounds good.
Yeah, let's do that.
We're about halfway done in terms of number of matches that we're gonna have.
Yeah.
This first one, man.
Yeah, this is a tough one. So first up is Murder at Excelsior Hotel versus the Blob That Ate Everything. Both very good standalones.
Standalone showdown.
Oh man, standalone showdown, folks. Every single vote will matter here. I know what's going to happen, and I don't want it to happen, but I know it's going to happen.
I like both of these. I've played Murder 3 or 4 times, so I haven't like gotten all the different variants yet. I played with new groups. The best part about Murder is like whoever's lead investigator, you get to accuse them of murder the whole time, which I was that person at least once.
I feel like the one that I like a little bit more is Hotel, but I never want to vote for the 1 seed in anything. I always want to like you gotta see an upset is more fun, right?
This is a troublemaker, and Blob is really good. I have fun with it, playing it, and I think we ran it at what was the convention we went to, Dane? I forgot. The one in Philly.
PAX Unplugged.
Yeah, PAX Unplugged. That was really good too. So
who's winning so far? Because I'm just going to vote for the underdog, probably.
Don't
Dan,
tell
that's
me.
Boo. Don't do that.
Don't tell me.
Uh,
Murder at the Excelsior Hotel is like not even for me comparable to the Blob That Ate Everything. Blob That Ate Everything is also extremely replayable. But
It's
like the
so
reasons
really-
why I would vote for it are like just so different from the reasons why I would vote for Murder at the Excelsior Hotel.
I like it. Again, I haven't played it as like a single team though, so I don't know if like a single team it like loses this luster.
I played it a couple times as that, and it was still really fun.
I think part of what Blob has going for it is the reality acid thing, which is cool if you like that, but it's kind of gimmicky for me. And on the other hand, the hotel is like I would just play it like 4 times right now because we'd probably get like 4 different endings, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I
The other
ended
thing
up
that's
voting.
really cool. Somebody mentioned in Murder that kind of the murder happens at the beginning, and the lead investigator is kind of placed in a really awkward position. That's definitely probably like one of the most in character moments in Arkham Horror the card game that you can have, just because well, I mean, me as a player, I don't want to cover anything up because I didn't do it. But then you're like, well, what would Skids do? Or like, well, what would Finn do? And then that's where you get those really interesting things.
Yeah.
I definitely do like it. So it looks like viewers agreed. Murder at the Excelsior Hotel has beat out the Blob. It's gonna move on.
Yeah, that was the unfortunate reality we all live in.
It's okay. Either one of them is going to lose to Carnival next, right?
Oh my God, it's more standalone.
Well, Depths of Yoth.
Depths of Yoth.
That is true.
Up next is the Depths of Yoth versus Carnival of Horrors. For these are both seeded very close. They're 8th and 9th in our seed, or 9th and 8th, whatever. And I like both these scenarios. I think I like Carnival better though.
It's
Carnival.
They both have something like very unique happening with the locations, because you're like going down into the depths, and Carnival has like a very, symmetric.
The scenarios that utilize like the position of the locations really well are definitely often really some of the coolest ones. And I know Matt and team like really consider that with some scenarios, like making the shape of whatever you're doing can be really add to the theme, the strength of the scenario. So
I kind of think that standalones have like an intrinsic advantage in this bracket because scenarios that are part of a campaign inevitably like they share some of the encounter cards, they might share some locations. It's sometimes hard to remember like, oh, which one was that? But standalones have like an entirely separate deck. They have everything is like unique for them. They're very memorable. And like in this case, I like Depths of Yoth, but it's still like you're fighting snakes, whatever. Like it's a cool scenario, but like Carnival is just so unique and like I remember it very well. It's a really cool scenario.
Someone in chat brought up the hidden mechanic in Carnival where you don't know if you're fighting an enemy or finding a person you're trying to save is definitely really cool.
There's also
that's where Dan brought up the Monty Hall.
The Monty Hall problem. Are we allowed to spoil Carnival because it came out like 3 years ago?
What do you mean? You mean the ending phase where you're in a boat?
I won't spoil it specifically, but like, the ending in the boat where just all of a sudden you're in a boat is like one of the coolest like wow moments early in the game. Just playing this.
Talk about cinematic.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I think there might be some light spoilers for overarching things. Probably too late to mention that.
I really think it's usually fine to be like, it's stuff that's been out for a couple of years. You can just spoil it, but whatever.
I mean, some people are just joining the game, and like the old stuff is hard to find because FFG is really bad at reprinting stuff. So
that is a good point.
There's a pandemic, But all right, so I didn't see who won. Let me refresh my page.
Carnival won.
Carnival, all right.
65%.
Yeah, pretty decisive there. All right, so next up is The Last King versus The House Always Wins. Technically the second scenario in 2 different campaigns, depending on which way you go in Dunwich. Last King all the way for me though. Again, like the dinner party stuff, wandering on and trying to talk to people before stuff flips over is really cool. There's definitely randomness where you can be like sad where you don't get to talk to somebody before you're wondering if they're an ally or an enemy type of thing. But I like that a lot.
I think these are honestly like my 2 least favorite that made it to the second round. Like I don't hate them, but I kind of don't care which one wins. Like they're both fine.
House Always Wins is weird because like the first half of it you can't like directly discover clues mostly.
Yeah.
I like the mechanic of like you have to like lure the boss away from wherever you want to get clues from. At least in multiplayer. I imagine it's harder in solo to do that. And the gambling is fun.
Yeah.
Like, the theme is all fun there. The back
Yeah,
half's kind of
Nitrous Acrostic brings up a good point in the chat. Nitrous, I just like to burn down houses. If you would like to burn down houses, then Arkham Horror, the card game, is the game for you.
Oh yeah,
because we're going to be burning down at least 2 houses.
Because you can use the cards as kindling to set your house on fire.
Exactly.
I'm going to vote for Last King because I think it's a little bit more mechanically fun, and I think it's fun for. I mean, the house always wins. It's going to be funny when it loses. Let's just make that happen right now. You know.
The Last King's also really memorable, right? Like you're always when you build a deck for the first part of Carcosa, I'm always thinking about Last King 100% of the time, right? Like, come on.
Yeah. And I like the different story text for each person as they flip over. They're all like one person turns into like a bug and one person turns into like a puddle of
ooze
or something.
It's gruesome, man.
It's
cool. So gross.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty great. So it looks like again didn't look at what the poll results were, but I think it was the Last King.
Last King takes it 73%. A decisive victory nonetheless.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. All right. Black Stars Rise versus Essex County Express.
This one's really hard.
These are definitely both my top 10.
Yeah, me too.
It's true.
Both of them are great. Black Stars Rise, it is a little weird because you have to decide. Even there, it has a decision of like, oh, do we put Doom on alternating agendas or do we like hard rush one and hope we get it right?
And there's no right answer. That's what's great.
Yeah. We've played it a lot, and I haven't. I think usually when I play it now, I do alternating, but either way, it's great. You can like rush to the end as hard. You can try to rush to the end. It's hard to get to the part where you can actually figure out which. I like all the big scary monsters like the tidal terrors and stuff. Yeah,
I like all the art in this is just so good. I like all the locations in this so much. I would like a playmat of every location of Black Stars Rise.
Yeah, and Essex County Express. I guess a downside for that is like when you enter new carts in the train, you might get bones because of if you don't have cards to discards, that can kind of kill you kind of fast. And there's definitely ancient evils and stuff for that, which are like But Essex County Express does have the funniness if you're playing Zoe and you draw an enemy, it goes you draw a weakness and it goes into the injured car.
This one was really tough. I'm gonna pick Black Stars Rise just because I think Essex is gonna win, and it's like I'd rather vote for the other one. You know?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's hard, man. It's still going. It's still going.
It's neck and neck right now.
A few seconds left.
Yeah,
this is hard, man.
Wow.
Black Stars Rise. It's really interesting because Black Stars Rise does a lot of good things with the agenda and act deck, whereas Essex County Express does a lot of good things with the locations. All of them are interesting, but.
And I just think like, so the thing to remember is that Dunwich was in development before the game came out, before they had reactions to it. Like Dunwich and the core set were developed at the same time. There's a huge jump in the sophistication of like how they would design scenarios after Dunwich. So relative to that, Essex County is really, really impressive. It's like if it's just a straight up heads up, I probably like Black Stars Rise more. But if you're grading on a curve, like Essex County Express is.
Yeah, and there we go.
Yeah. And
there's the results. Essex County Express wins by 1 vote.
Ooh, yeah, it's a close one.
Yeah, wow.
All right, so up next is Midnight Masks versus For the Greater Good. This one actually is tough for me. I like both of these. I feel like I'm going to lean towards... personally, I'm probably going to go for Greater Good because I think I like the 2 variants of the Greater Good, where like one you're trying to like sneak in, one you're like bros with the cultists. And they just let you explore. Yeah, and I like the token mechanic. Maybe it's just because I played Midnight Mask so much, I'm like not as excited by it. Because Midnight Mask is definitely very good.
That's kind of where I'm at too. Also, Midnight Masks is not really a huge challenge anymore with like modern decks. Like, I mean, at least maybe on solo or something it's different. But when we go in there with like 3 or 4 people, we're just gonna get all 6 like pretty reliably, unless something goes horribly wrong.
Yeah,
you know, that takes a lot of the fun out of it when it's like, well, how many of these are we gonna get? Yeah, we're probably gonna get all 6. You know. Yeah,
that's true. And Forget It does have a great name because you can say,
yeah,
it's great.
Oh yeah, because Hot Fuzz references all over the place.
Really cool, really cool names, really very goth names of the enemies, like the Knight of the Inner Circle and the Knight of the Outer Void. Like those guys, cool as heck.
Oh yeah,
really cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and like I mean, like talking more about the hot fuzz angle.
Hmm.
One of the, like we were talking about Excelsior being one of the more unique like role playing aspects where you can like choose your decisions based on the murder based upon who you are. If you go into this with all Guardians, man, that is as flavorful as it gets. You are like the feds storming a building of evil, like creepy cultist guys, laying down the law, handcuffing people, and getting all your friend beat cops in there. It was so fun when we did that.
We had an extremely good time going in with a lot of handcuffs. Arresting everyone.
8 handcuffs, man.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah, pretty great.
It looks like Midnight Masks won in the end, right?
It did. I think I forgot to vote. Oh well. Yeah. But Midnight Masks won that round. Next up is The Search for Kadath versus The Unspeakable Oath. Yeah, these are both. This is getting tough.
Totally Search for Kadath. I just think that
God.
the push your luck scenarios, the ones that, except like maybe Boundary Beyond, are just so much more interesting for me to go back to than like anything else. And I just love all the like art, all the references to the Dream Quest, which is one of my favorite Lovecraft books. Like, it's got to be Search for Kadath for me, I think.
It's so hard for me because while The Search for Kadath is definitely one of my favorite recent endeavors in Arkham Horror, the Unspeakable Oath is like when that ended, that was the moment that I knew I was absolutely in love with Arkham Horror, the card game. Like when
2 years.
Alex, that was like incredible for me. That like, I will take this game to my grave kind of a revelation that I had. It was so intense.
I kind of agree with Dane. It's the theme of it is very good. The story around being the end, which I'm factoring in a little bit at least, is great. I do know, as I mentioned before, on solo, I think it's very tough, and you might have a sad ending in solo. I
think Unspeakable Oath should lose because it takes place in Arkham Asylum. And whenever you mention to people that, oh yeah, I have a podcast about this game, Arkham Horror, they're like, oh, like Batman? And then you have to explain a bunch of shit to them. And you know what? That's not okay. That's not okay. And we should stop pretending it is okay. So, yeah, that's my
It's hard not to factor nostalgia into it, but yeah.
It's also hard not to factor Batman into it, but you know.
I mean, I think factoring in like what scenarios gave you the best like experience, I think is very important, and I think that's why a lot of people like the game. I know I like the game. Like we talked about the flashback, like, oh yeah, they had a great time with the scenario because of this craziness that happened, you know. So, but the winner there was Search for Kadath.
There we go.
Up next, we have Pallid Mask versus Eternal Slumber. Well, I mean, this one's not a contest. Pallid Mask, we mentioned it already. It's so good. Yeah. The map mechanic is great. Eternal Slumber is good. Like, we loved playing Egypt when it first came out. We played it a couple times. But Pallid Mask just was... It's great. I love it. I
hate to vote against Eternal Slumber, but it's Pallid Mask all the way for me. Yeah.
It's true, yeah. Eternal Slumber, like I was saying, is one of the more cinematic ones where you have some time in the town and then you go out and explore like the dunes and everything. But Pallid Mask for me, talking about nostalgia, man, that was another one of those moments that just blew my mind when I was playing this game.
I mean, Eternal Slumber does feel like kind of like a little contained D&D adventure where like you're investigating to talk, and then you go into the wilderness, and then you fight the big boss. Exactly. So like, that's very cool.
Yeah.
There's also like, is it fair to hold it against Eternal Slumber that it does take way too long? That it takes like 3 hours to play or something? It's like one of the longest scenarios. Like that can be at least a little bit of a demerit, right?
Yeah, I do it against it. Like I like the scenarios when they're like 2-ish hours, maybe 2.5, depending if you're playing a new scenario. But
I just wish they'd made a whole Egypt campaign instead of like 2 extremely long scenarios. Even if it had been like a half a campaign, like 4 normal sized scenarios instead of 2 incredibly long ones, that would have been cool.
The weird thing with Egypt was how it was released, like because it was originally at Gen Con the first half, and then the second half was at Arkham Knights. So if you didn't go to Gen Con before Arkham Knights, you didn't get to play it.
Yeah,
and then like the first half was also in an invocation kit, which really would like the invocations to come back in general. Maybe after the world's
next year.
But there was supposed to be one this year, but I think that that was supposed to
Yeah,
run for a
that's
while.
probably not gonna happen.
Yeah, but in general, like the release of it was very weird because like if you didn't go to both Gen Con and Arkham Knights, or Gen Con or Arkham Knights and an Invocation event, you like didn't get to do both halves, which is kind of until the actual pack come out. And that the packs from Gen Con and Arkham Knights, they always like have like a December release and then don't come out until like July the following year. So it was a little weird. Anyway, winner of that was in fact the Pallid Mask.
Pallid Mask takes it.
No surprise for me. Up next,
I have a prediction that we're going to see a lot of the Carcosa up here. Carcosa is fantastic.
It's kind of shaking out that way so far.
Yeah, I mean, we're always big fans of it. So up next is Curtain Call versus Threads of Fate. I think this is the last standing Forgotten Age scenario.
Kill it.
I don't know. I think I like Threads of Fate better than Curtain Call though.
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, Threads of Fate takes it here. Threads of Fate is one of the more unique ones, just in that it's got 3 acts. It's one of the really nice like callbacks to the Midnight Masks. Very, very interesting ways it can play out. Curtain Call, again, for me anyway, doesn't have as much intrigue as Threads does. So I definitely go Threads here.
Threads is definitely a better designed, more interesting, more fun scenario. But I just feel really nervous that it was seeded like number 2. Like, is this going to beat Pallid Mask next round? That would be awful. So I feel like I should just start voting against it out of principle.
Dan, you're using a lot of strange strategy for what we're just trying to determine what the best scenario is. I feel like you might have some type of bias and you're trying to like kill some of the
I know, and Dan,
I don't know.
Captain Farnese in chat says it features no snakes, supplies, or exploration deck.
But you can't just play Threads. You could play it standalone, but like you can't get to Threads of Fate without getting through Untamed Wilds. That alone, I'll vote for Threads. It's fine.
Yeah, because Curtain Call. I mean, Return to Curtain Call. If we were considering that, does make it a little bit more interesting. But Vanilla Curtain Call, it's very predictable. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. Like the last phase of it is like there's 3 different versions. Like it's like flooding or the ooze or it's on fire or something. That's kind of neat story wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think whenever we play it, we like make that last like one round because it's very bad.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, also you can jump off the balcony. That's a very underrated action that you can take in Arkham Horror, the card game. Very cool action.
It's very cool. Yeah, we like that a lot. So so we're down to just 8 remaining. So we've only got only got a couple matches left.
Got an upset update for us, Dan? Is that right?
So the only upsets this time, did we have any? Okay, so Search for Kadath upset Unspeakable Oath, and that was it. Other than that, it was all just chalk by the seeding so far. Yeah. So I think from here we're going to increase the duration of the polling to. Should we go to, instead of 90 seconds? Should we go to like 2 or 2.5 minutes? What do you guys think?
I would say keep. I mean, we've already discussed all these scenarios, in their earlier rounds.
But now we're at the point where it's like hard decisions to make mostly.
Yeah. Now we're going to be sweating.
Yeah, like earlier we were just like, remember what this one was? Oh yeah, and now it's like, ooh, which one of these that we both like,
Yeah, I would say let's do 2 minutes for this next round, and then maybe we can do a little bit more for the last few rounds.
So let's also, let's take a break for a few minutes. Let's should we like, how many people are watching right now? We've got like 39. Should we like have someone go pop into Discord and like see if anyone else wants to join in just to vote for the last segment? It influence which one is really on top or something like that. I mean, we can try to get as many votes as we can. That'd be kind of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll post in the Farkham Discord. Yeah, if people aren't on it, there is a Farkham Horror Discord. People are helping organize events and just chatting casually. I think the link is on the Farkham Horror website, or Farkham Con, not Farkham Horror website. But it's a good place to hang out with other people in the community and chat. So I bumped us there in our listener channel, but
okay. So I guess while we're waiting for some more people to enter, maybe for the final couple hard decisions, we did want to mention shamelessly our Patreon. We just got it going. Creating content for you guys is something that we really love doing. We hadn't had a Patreon up until now. if you want to consider donating to help us out, every little bit will help. Keep the domains running, keep the SoundCloud running, and everything. Right now, we just have a standard tier for those who just want to show their support, but we'll be adding tiers in the coming months, incentives and things for exclusive content, contests, raffles, and a whole bunch else coming your way. So again, we do really appreciate everybody hanging out here and listening to all the podcasts throughout the ages.
Yeah, for anybody that's just hanging out with us for the first time, so we put out an episode every 2 weeks, either a live episode that we record and then make a podcast out of, or like just a pure podcast episode. We also do other stuff, like currently we're playing through both sides of the Dreamlands or Dream Eaters campaign live on stream, half of it with real cards, half of it online. So we have we have a bunch of stuff going on,
Yeah.
Let's see. All right.
Andromeda Dust. We're going to throw up the link to the Patreon right here. Again, if you guys want to chip in, it absolutely will help us out. It's really mostly just for us to help host domains for now. Once we're going to be up and running with more contents and things like that, we'll get all that stuff out there for you.
So we did we got a few more viewers for the stream. So just to recap what we've been doing, we have this bracket where we're counting down to the best Arkham scenarios of the 52 that have been released so far. So we did an initial poll to seed things and pick the top 32, and from there it's just been a single elimination tournament. We're down to the top 8 at this point, which are Murder at the Excelsior Hotel, Carnival of Horrors, Last King, Essex County Express, Midnight Masks, Search for Kadath, Pallid Mask, and Threads of Fate. So we've got 3 rounds left, and you can vote by clicking. If you're watching on a computer, there's a little blue Vote Now button. If you mouse over the Twitch video window, you can click on that, click OK, and you'll be able to vote in the poll. If you're on a phone, there will be a little blue Vote Now button in the white bar just below the video. So So if you're hearing the stream, you can help us pick the outcome of what are your favorite Arkham scenarios.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we keep it going here? So we got 2-minute timer on these votes, I believe. And first up is Murder at Excelsior Hotel versus Carnival of Horrors. 2 very good standalones once again matched up.
Also, the only 2 standalones left in the bracket, I think.
Yeah.
They did all get seated kind of in this top section, so they kind of knocked each other out mostly.
I mean, to that end, this is like the unofficial crown for standalones, I think.
Yeah. This one is really tough because these are both really good, and it's kind of like, do you go with like the classic standalone from early in the game that kind of like blew everybody's minds, or the more recent one that introduces a lot of new replayability and some interesting story stuff? Both are really good.
Yeah, I definitely have some nostalgia for Carnival of Horror, but I don't know, Murder's probably better. It has a lot more replayability with the 10 different endings. The theme and roleplay, like I always like it when I have a easy roleplay to slip into, or other people have the option, because it helps encourage people to get into that part. The murder and like being set up like, oh, I'm in the room and the bloody weapon's in my hand, oh no, and trying to decide like if you have to like murder the cops or the innocent civilians or just let the doom run out is also like a really difficult decision, and like the repercussions for doing it or not doing it are pretty cool.
I think that most of Carnival for me was like that initial shock when during the end of the game, towards the end of the game, I don't want to spoil anything, but that for me was one of like the defining Arkham moments. But I feel like for Murder, if the time was that they were released was swapped, like if Murder came out when Carnival came out, it would absolutely be like a favorite over Carnival, just because of how interesting and cool like it can be.
Probably, but I also think that Carnival, again, judged relative to like the kind of amount of like technology and expertise they had when it was released, Carnival is impressive as heck.
That's true. Yeah.
I ended up picking Carnival, but it is really tough. Both of these are really good.
Yeah, it looks like a winner for that was in fact Murder at the Excelsior Hotel. Over Carnival.
It's the number 1 seed.
It's in the finals now.
It's definitely a very good scenario. So, well, it's
It
in the
is true, yeah.
semifinals.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
the only
Oh, 75. I'm sorry.
the only
Yeah.
thing that made it to the top 8 that wasn't in the top 8 seeds was Search for Kadath.
Yeah. All right. So up next is The Last King versus Essex County Express. Oh man. Yeah. Last King, very cool. Like try to get them all scenario. The story text in it is like very well balanced in terms of like being dispersed out through the scenario and like keeping the theme on track. But you're on a train in the other one. Trains are great.
But trains.
I feel like I have a better memory from Essex County Express when like we were playing with Colin and he got sucked into the portal because we thought we had like a whole other agenda and we did not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Asking is pretty cool, but I kind of honestly can't believe this is as close as it is. Like Essex County Express. I mean, I guess people just don't like how spiky Essex County Express is, maybe, and like how you can get really unlucky and like lose even if you kind of played correctly. And that, yeah, I get that can be frustrating, but it's just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, definitely difficult for some, I imagine. But no,
I think like The Last King though, like is like a very different level, like explores a very different level of like grotesque darkness that we didn't see in Dunwich. Like we saw the monstrosity in the field, but really like the only time it got really grisly were in the last 2 campaigns or scenarios. Where Doom Awaits kind of had it a little bit with the guy on the top. I guess Silas in Blood on the Altar was a little spooky and gross, but Last King for me is just like people's like spines are distending and like creating massive human centipedal things, and it's grisly, and that for me left a very explicit image.
But you know,
horror and disgust.
But, you know, one thing that we didn't talk about yet with the Essex County Express is like you get to the end and you have to do like that one test to like jump into the final train car or whatever. Like,
oh yeah,
that's when you do that, you just feel like you're goddamn Superman. That's just so cool when you're like, no guys, hang back, I can do this. You know, like that's really neat.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Unless or maybe all your friends already get sucked into the sky hole already, and then you're like, "Oh, I could do it! I could make it to the end." You know, it's super cool.
Yeah. So it looks like Essex won by just 2 votes. Very close.
I'm really surprised that was that close.
I agree with the result though. So
Thoth 7, that chest.
Yeah. Yeah. Thoth mentioned he has like they had a lot of very good story moments in Essex, so I agree. Yeah, a lot of memorable things, and the nostalgia doesn't hurt there. So
Past it is Daisy.
Oh, that is impressive.
What a god!
Encyclopedia, maybe. That's yeah.
All right, so next round in the quarterfinals is the Midnight Masks versus Search for Kadath.
Oh man. This has to be an upset for me. I love the Midnight Masks. Again, nostalgia, early experiences, but for me, Search for Kadath, I would love to see the Search for Kadath win it all.
A lot of these have been.
I love that campaign so much.
This is like the non-standalone version of Murder at the Excelsior Hotel versus Carnival. It's like the kind of old classic one versus like the new one that is like definitely better and more fun. Like. I mean, and that one it was more arguable, but this one, like Search for Kadath, is just so cool and so much of an awesome challenge. I'm a huge fan of Search for Kadath.
Yeah, is Search for Kadath like more brutal and solo or anything? Just because there's a lot of movement and stuff.
So I mean, we've
like mostly fied.
We've been doing it duo on the Streamland streams that we've been doing, and it was very tough. But we also maybe didn't pick like the absolute best characters for it. I don't know, and we're playing on hard.
Yeah, and Dropping House does bring up a very good point. You just don't get cats in Midnight Masks.
That is true. Midnight Mask has 0 cats.
Yeah,
and 0 birds probably.
Yeah, Bryce brought up a good point that Search for Kadath is a good scenario. Like you could play it on its own if you wanted. Like just
that is true.
Variety to it.
Yeah,
and it has a lot of variety in that. Like because you have the decision early on, like which place to go to first. And like the ones that you choose to go to first, that makes a big difference because
it just because the timing is so tight on it, like you have so little time, and like so many of the encounter cards are kind of like weird ancient evils that you have to like deal with a special way. It just really becomes this like clockwork puzzle where you have like maybe exactly enough clicks to get through it. That's super cool.
Yeah. Captain Perennies does bring up a good point here. It's also Jim's time to shine. Absolutely. Honestly, these are like some of the scariest skulls in a lot of the campaigns. Like next to Depths of Yoth, where like the lower you go, the more scary the skull gets, and bathophobia and things. Like Jim can just shrug it off. He's just a negative mind modifier. No.
But honestly, the whole Dream Quest, because Beyond the Gates of Sleep and Where the Gods Dwell also have really horrible skulls. If you're on hard mode, if you're on like standard, it's like whatever. But on hard mode, they're really terrible.
Yeah, they're definitely nasty. Surgical Goth is very dramatic though, because it goes up to like 9 or 10 at the end if you're doing well enough.
And you like definitely can't stop it just by like playing well. It's like, well, I mean, if you're doing well and you're getting all the signs, the skull is going to be like really bad. So.
Yeah. So winner there was in fact Search for Kadath. So an upset there.
Nice.
Last matchup for the quarterfinals is the Pallid Mask versus Threads of Fate.
Ooh, this one's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Pallid Mask, I feel like I have better memories with that, with trying to explore the catacombs, realizing we screwed up the pattern and made it a really long line by accident instead of a cool circle so you could kite stuff.
That mechanic of like the procedurally generating the map, I feel like that's what exploration in Forgotten Age was trying to do and just like didn't do quite as well. It's so cool and it works so well in Pallid Mask. It's so simple and it just works. And that part at the end where you like meet the stranger and you either like fight him or do the parley, that's also super cool. Like the ending of it is great. Just an amazing scenario.
Yeah, and the two different endings.
Until he like randomly explodes into a monster that he's not supposed to explode into.
Oh yeah, do you remember those monsters that like chest burst out of humanoids? That's a cool mechanic. Like I'd like to see that again. It's like a neat where like enemies can turn into other enemies. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's definitely great. There's a weird bug where the Pallid Mask can turn into one of those enemies that you have to kill them. We have to use instead, I think. Yeah,
Threads is really good though. Like it is a really cool scenario. It has a lot of kind of like Arkham the town stuff in it, which is always fun to go back to. Right. It has like a lot of different ways it can shake out depending on like the randomness of which acts you get and everything. Like it is really, really good. It makes sense that it got this far, but I definitely like Pallid Mask more.
It has a lot of different locations based on the acts, and also like there's a lot of variety to it. Like, isn't there like 27 or something different act cards that you can get comboed into there? Some of them are randomized, some of them are based on decisions. So it definitely has a lot of replayability there.
For sure.
I feel like Threads of Fate was like having library hour after like having gym class. You know, like gym class, you're just like sprinting around and like, you know, you're sweating, everything is horrible. And then like you get this reprieve where you get to walk around the town again and you're like, oh, it's Arkham Horror, the card game. And you get to walk around and supplies aren't a thing. Don't worry about snakes. And then they're like, oh, well, you're going back there. And you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
Thread's definitely very good. But it looks like Pallid Mask took the W there,
which is
pretty handily. So
here's what's interesting. Yeah, so that last round, because that's the end of this round, we had I guess we had two upsets. Search for Kadath upset Midnight Masks and Pallid Mask upset Threads of Fate. So what's interesting is we have one standalone, one Dunwich scenario, one Dream Quest scenario, and one Carcosa scenario.
It's true. I was about to mention that, yeah.
So for all the talk that like Carcosa was doing really well for a while, but at this point there's not multiple scenarios that made it this far from any of the campaigns, which is kind of interesting.
Is that right? Well, no, there's like two Carcosa scenarios, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Just you're right. Pallid Mask and no. Just
Last King. Yeah.
Last King was in the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like as of now that we're down to the top 4, there's only one from Carcosa. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was looking at the original bracket still. All right. Yeah. So we are in the semifinals. We have Murder at Excelsior Hotel, seat number 1, versus Essex County Express, seat number 4. Oh man, I feel like Murder is like definitely a better scenario.
Choo choo.
I like the so much. I'm very biased towards trains.
The
I
train
know.
just has
This is where it gets hard,
Look,
folks.
here's what the train map looks like: location, 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 location. That's all it is. Simplicity of it. It's beautiful. It's like Tetris or something. It's just like you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I understand this. I'm trying to get from here to here. It's incredible.
Yeah, the murder map is very big, but it's still cool. It has like the different floors that you're going down. I do have trouble arranging it perfectly because there's too many second floor locations. But yeah, I like that train.
It's pretty good. I mean, it is like, yeah, you can definitely. I feel like almost for the moment alone, where like you have one more round than you've been expecting based on the pattern of the first couple cars, but then 2 cars disappear. That alone is enough of like just a out of nowhere wrecking ball that it's like, I don't know. The hotel's really good too, though. Hotel is really cool. It's like,
Yeah.
I would love
For
to
me,
see.
it's Hotel, I think.
I'd love to see more scenarios that had like so many different outcomes at the end that like, you could just replay a lot and it would be like different each time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's I think something that Nick Ori brought home even more than Matt Newman did. He was like, I want to make sure that this is a scenario that you can just do that. You can if you play it 3 times, you'll never get the same resolution.
That is really cool. And it has some neat dialogue. It has like some neat the weird little like items that you find that like determine what the mystery is going to be are all kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one.
Having to resist killing the cops and the civilians to like try to be like the good guy and not kill the innocent people is also very difficult.
Captain Fairmanes, are you me? Because I had that exact same experience. I jumped on Rita's back and I gunned down everything that moved in that hotel, man. It was the greatest experience.
This one's really close.
Yeah, it's very tight.
It is close, man. It's 47 to 52 right now.
52%. It looks like train won. Train wins the day by 1 vote.
Going all the way, all aboard.
1 vote.
All aboard.
Oh, Mythos Busters. Oh no.
Tickets, please. I mean, if you're gonna lose to a scenario and it fits Essex, that's like, you got.
That is true. Yeah.
All right. So
now leaving the station to the finals.
Last semifinal matchup is Search for Kadath versus Pallid Mask.
Oh my god! I hoped it wouldn't come to this, man. I hoped it wouldn't come to this.
This is like the hardest one so far.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, Cats versus Theater.
Cats versus
as Lady says in chat. Right? That's yeah. Cats versus Catacombs. That's good too. So
Cats versus Catacombs.
I don't know. We can't just make groaning noises for 2 minutes. We got.
Oh man.
So yeah, they both have like the Search for Kadath. I feel like has maybe a little bit more strategy. Depending on your investigators you're doing, you can like try to after you're on a replay, like might decide to go to one place or the other. Like there's the one place where you like play spells cheaper.
It has more replayability just by nature of being like a push your luck scenario where you can try to get as many signs as possible. Like those are always going to be like there's more of a reason to come back to them. But Pallid Mask is just so perfect the way it is. You know?
Yeah.
It's so hard.
And I like the ending of Pallid Mask too. Like I don't want to spoil it, but there's 2 different endings that are drastically different depending on your decision, and both of them are pretty cool.
Oh man.
Trying to get all the victory in Pallid Mask is also kind of hard. Like you have the big ghost guy you have to do for a while, and a lot of those locations are very scary to stand on. There's the pit in the ground. That's specific to Pallid Mask too, right?
That's right. Yeah. The hole in the ground.
You fall in a hole and take $1 billion damage if you stay there. I do like the strategy of like if you can try to figure out how to lay out, like it requires a little bit of luck, but you can try to make the map into like a circle so you can like kite the ghost guy around.
Or you can try to make it, if you're going to kill the big guy anyway, you try to make it as like dense as possible so the skull isn't really bad. You have like options.
Oh yeah, that's true.
This one is like super hard. I still haven't voted. I think I'm gonna go for Pallid Mask though, probably.
Kadath is very cool though. Like all the locations are cool. Like, the different like themed enemies in each place. And like it's very tough.
Either way, it's so cool that like out of the 52 scenarios that have been released in this game, one that came out in the last like 6 months is in the top 4. And actually,
Oh no, guys!
Oh my god!
How did you people do this to us? We
All
didn't have a
right.
plan.
Oh no!
You're gonna make us look like idiots. Oh no.
Well, we said we'd take Harrison decide, although I don't know if he got his audio working.
Can we?
On the
Can we call Kanye West or something and be like, which of these things sounds cooler? Or can we
He is
can we
not the person to be making decisions here, Dan.
pick a Korean baseball game that's like about to be played and say like the winner is determined by
man.
All right. No, I think we decided.
Okay, Archer has a good point.
What?
Well, upsets win would mean that Kadath wins.
Because we have to. It has to be some actual legit way to decide, given that this is like who goes to the finals, right? Like we can't just.
It's true. If it happened at any other stage,
if it had been a tie earlier on, it would be like whatever,
man.
let's do something. But so okay, what about what can we do?
Ooh, someone in chat wants to duel somebody.
Ooh, I like that idea.
All right,
That's really interesting.
Can we get that on stream really quick? Like, can you have a camera handy? Yeah, I can. Oof, it's very tough. Very tough.
Oh my god.
We did say our tiebreaker was going to be Harrison, though.
What if? So here's the thing: we have 38 viewers, and we only got 22 votes. What if we just like run it back again, and this time we like beg everybody to vote?
Like do a recount or a
very fair way
revote?
of doing it. If we could pull a token from a chaos bag, somehow make it like auto fail or elder sign, whichever one is pulled,
But then, that kind of makes sense because I feel like in that sense, Pallid Mask is like the auto fail, and Search for Kadath is the elder sign, in a weird way.
We can do a repoll. We can do like a 30-second repoll. I'm against doing anything random. We're trying to rank stuff.
The repoll. I think you're right that we shouldn't do it because like if someone didn't vote, it means that they didn't really have a strong opinion. So like, you know. No, maybe it's fine.
Cats.
All right, did Harrison make a vote? I didn't see him hear or say anything.
Oh, he's got the cat.
Harrison has picked cat.
Well, what if we hold both Mythos packs in front of the cat and see which one the cat picks? We probably can't do that in the time that we have.
The cat appears to want to leave.
Yeah.
All right, no, that's fine. We said Harrison would make the decide the vote.
Yeah,
pick the cat. So search for Kadath.
That's fine with me. Yeah. If anyone is upset, I'm sorry. Next time, vote harder so we don't have a tie. You know, I don't know. click the button harder and make a bigger vote so that we have like decimals instead of whole numbers. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So final rounds. After much contention, is going to be Essex County Express versus the Search for Kadath.
Wow.
Both very good scenarios.
You guys laughed at me when I said that the train was going all the way to the station. When I said all aboard, choo choo, you were like, Dane's just being an idiot. But here we are. You know, I mean.
Oh man, this is it. This is for all the beans, folks.
Oh yeah, all the marbles.
I was gonna say to put a slightly longer timer, but we got 2 minutes to decide.
Train keep it moving.
Train versus cats. Cats. There aren't that many cats featured in Kadath, are there? Are there just in like the first area? There's a manticore area.
In the like setup text, there's like a lot of stuff probably about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of cats going on. I don't know. Damn it. I like them a lot. I like them both a lot.
This one is really, really, really hard. I think I'm gonna go with Essex County Express just because
I feel like Search for Kadath is like a better scenario. I do have like very good nostalgic memories of Train. But I feel like objectively Kadath is like much more interesting. There's a lot more strategic choices. Like Train, you're just trying to run to the end. While Kadath,
that's the beautiful. It's like Mario. It's like you just have to get to the castle at the end of the level. Like that's the simplicity of it. It's not like, oh, you have to explore the map and collect all of the honeycombs and the guard towers and the like. It's like the simplicity is really powerful in Essex County Express.
Yeah, there is something to be said for that. I can agree there. Like which do I want to go back and play more if I can just play one scenario? I guess maybe that's what I'm thinking. Actually, it's probably train, because if I want to play just one scenario, I probably don't want to hang out for 3 hours and do Kadath.
And like have to get down to the end and be like, okay, so if we get rid of the Maga bird this way, and then you go over here and get these clues, and we debate it for like 45 minutes.
That does happen with Kadath. With train, we're just like, go forward. What are you doing?
Still pretty close.
But Kadath, Search for Kadath has like one of my favorite encounter cards. Wondrous Lands, as horrible as it is, it's like such a perfectly flavorful card because you just get lost in how amazing the place around you is. Like you're exploring like kingdoms, you're walking around towns, you could be hanging out with cats that you just let doom accrue just because of your sheer enjoyment of where you are.
And we've got results. The search for Kadath comes out on top.
Oh man, yeah, and this is very contentious because we had the tie vote break to get search for Kadath.
I feel like in the end, our not having a good enough way to break that tie ended up casting a little bit of a pall over this whole thing. But hey, I think all 4 of these final 4 scenarios are like among the best 4 that they've made in the game so far, and it's like, I'm pretty happy that all these got here.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh man,
it's also like we could have done a 3rd and 4th place matchup between the hotel and Pallid Mask, and I guess we still could. I kind of feel like because Pallid Mask only got knocked out by basically a pet animal cat tiebreaker, like I feel like we should give it 3rd place. Kind of. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think honestly all of these could have been 1st place, and all of them should just have a joint victory.
Here's what we've learned today, folks. Democracy is hard. Arkham Horror, the card game, is a pretty good game, and it has a lot of good scenarios. And choo-choo forever. Even you got to be. It was a little engine that could, and it didn't quite make it to the end. But choo-choo. Still very.
fun. The top 5 we have here are so it goes Search for Kadath, Essex County Express, Pallid Mask, Murder at the Excelsior Hotel, and
why top 5?
Yeah, top 5 is hard to figure out.
Yeah, why would you pick 5? Like that's anyway. Well,
I mean, isn't like the one that loses to 1st place? Doesn't that become 5th? Is that how brackets work?
I don't think there's really a good. I don't know. Who cares? We're not. I don't know. We're not giving out prize money or anything.
Yeah. So I mean, that was it for a bracket.
There it is, folks.
Thanks so much to everybody for voting along and helping us make these decisions. As you can tell from listening to us, we are great at arguing about things, but very bad for actually coming up with a decision on various topics. So thank you very much for helping us. Thank you very much for watching the stream. And
had a fantastic time doing this. We had a really good day at FarkhamCon. I saw like a Silent Hill event. Somebody's making like a custom Silent Hill scenario. I think Team Covenant did a run through of Consternation on the Constellation. And there's so much more FarkhamCon to come. So if you guys haven't put in your registrations for different events, do so. There's a lot of cool stuff, including Jeremy Zwern and Matthew Newman over hanging out with the Mythos Busters on Saturday night. So that'll be a great time.
Saturday or Friday?
Oh no, you're right. It's 8:30 tomorrow night, I believe.
Yeah.
And Saturday night we'll be hosting a game show. That's what I was thinking of at 9 Eastern Standard Time, where 2 teams. I'm sorry, at 6 Standard Time.
6 Daylight Time, Dane. It's been a long bracket. It's been an emotional roller coaster.
6 o'clock Eastern Time.
6 p.m. Eastern Time. 2 teams will go head to head to see which will triumph in the Farkham Feud. So this is data collected from over 100 people who responded about questions like how many of you stole the luggage, how many of you completed a campaign discovering all of the glyphs and all the things that you can discover there. Come hang out with us then if you feel like helping us make cool content like this. Consider supporting our Patreon we mentioned earlier. Follow us on Facebook. Continue listening wherever you guys listen to podcasts. Until then, we'll catch you next time.
Oh, and thanks so much to Harrison for running the polls. Super great job. Sorry